If you're a kind of person who, after giving a business presentation at work, are thinking to yourself, did they really listen to me? Did they take my advice? Are they going to do something about it? Did my recommendations land with whoever I wanted to influence? Did me presenting something and not presenting make a difference? Should I have even bothered or not? If these are the questions you ask yourself and you feel like that this is not really happening for you and your business presentation is not landing the way you want with your audience, the answer or the reason for that is almost always in one of the 4 different categories or the 4 different patterns I want to talk to you about today. These patterns or these categories are not something I'm making up. So these are the things that are coming out of all of the coachings that I've done when it comes to business presentations at work. Because if you don't know me, I help early to mid-career non-native English speakers in tech deliver impactful, confident, and clear presentations that land with the audience so that they can work on the stuff they like and gain the visibility and the recognition for it. So you don't want to miss it. And if you feel like that this topic is something that you resonate with, or improving your business presentation skills is something that you would like to work on further, this is the place to be. Be sure to like this video and be subscribed to my channel because a lot more is coming. So let's get into it. I want to start with the first point, being self-focused. Let me know if this is a familiar scenario for you. You go into a presentation and somebody says, I'm here to talk about to you guys about. I'm here to give you an update about. I'm here to tell you that. I'm here to do something for you. I versus you. This is exactly what being self-focused means. It means that we are more often than not focused on ourselves instead of the needs of our audience. We are so wrapped around in our head and in our own world, and we're just thinking about what I want to say, how do I want to present myself, how should my presence be, that we forget that we are doing this presentation in order to meet the needs of our audience. And there are different ways it shows itself. So it might show itself in you creating cramped slides. Because you're self-focused, you create slides that doesn't really require you to think a lot about what you want to say. So you can look at the slide, read off of it, and you just throw stuff at your audience, hoping that they catch what they need. Another way that it could represent itself is when you create script for your presentation. Because you're self-focused, or we are self-focused, we don't want to go through the trouble of practicing, of being there to connect with our audience. We create a script because we're self-focused, and we read off the script in a very robotic way so that we don't really have to go through all the trouble. And we might go on and on and on about the stuff that we like instead of once thinking and pausing about what is it that my audience want. Is the stuff that I'm talking about even interesting for the people who I would love to influence and impact? So if we are self-focused when it comes to giving business presentations at work, this is how it shows itself. So now I want us to take another lens and think about it, how it would be if we were actually not self-focused and we were in fact audience-focused. One way it would look like is that we realize that we are in a business presentation to connect. We are not there to read off of script. We're not there to be robotic narrator of this presentation, because if that was the case, we could just share that report, share that presentation with them. But we are there to connect with people, not to read off of script. And we might realize that we are presenting there in the presentation to change something, not to transfer information, but we want to transform and change something in our audience. We either want to change their behavior or we want to change their opinion. First, we change the opinion so that later we can change their behavior. A presentation is not about sharing information or sharing a lot of things that we know. It's about sharing what matters so that we can change either the behavior or the opinion of the people that we want to impact and influence. And if we have that audience centricity, or we are not focused on ourselves, another way it could show itself is that we are there to serve our audience. This is something that I say all the time, that when you are a presenter, it's like you are providing a service to your audience. Think about all the services out there. Think about all the products. If a service or a product is not customer-centered, they're going to get bad reviews and nobody's going to buy from them. Nobody's going to get the referrals and the word of mouth going for them, which is the best way of marketing. And the presentation is the same thing. When you have the serving mindset in presentations, you realize that it is your audience that you're serving. Not yourself, not my manager, but my audience, whomever I would like to influence. That's what it means to being audience-centric as opposed to being self-focused. And now, if this resonates with you, or in the presentations that you attend as the audience as well, not just the ones you present yourself, but also where you go to present, where you go to listen to other people's presentations, if that feels like something that is hitting right home, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Number 1, why am I even giving this presentation in the first place? What is my end goal? What is my objective? What is my core message? Why the heck am I even giving this presentation? Because, my friend, if you do not have an answer to that, you might as well not present, because you never want to be noise. You give a presentation to change something and to transform something in your audience. Just transferring information and just sharing or having a presentation for an update is not a good enough one. So for the first question, I want you to ask this from yourself. Why am I giving this presentation? And the second question is, what do I want to leave my audience with? What does this mean? It means that if my audience leave my presentation and another colleague or somebody else asks them, what was discussed in that presentation, or what was that presentation about, or what did you learn, or something like that, what do I want my audience to transfer to other people? So if you think about it as like a ripple effect, where you drop a stone in a bit of water and then there are circles going around it so that it has the ripple effect. If you think about your message or the mark you want to have in your presentation as like a ripple effect, what is it that you want this person to give to that person so that that person can give to another person? You see what I mean here? What I mean is that, what is the takeaway? What is the key core message? What is the one thing out of a 1-hour presentation that you want your audience to leave with? You need to have that clear in your head. Because if you don't have that in yourself, then you cannot expect that from your audience. And third, I want you to think about, what is the best way to tell them? This is all about being audience focused rather than self-focused. You see the difference, right? Where you're self-focused, you're thinking, what have I done? What do I want to share? What do I want to tell them? When you're audience focused, you think about, what do they need to hear from me? What is it exactly that they want to understand? What do they need to hear? How is it that they need to understand this from me? It's all about them, not me. So that is all the first category, or the first pattern I wanted to talk with you guys, which is all about being self-focused, which is not something that we need to do. Now, I'm very curious. Is this hitting anywhere in your home for you guys? Do you recognize this, not even in your presentation, but maybe in other people's presentation? I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments if this is hitting somewhere in your home. It would also help me to understand what you guys are dealing with. Okay, now let's go to the second point, which is information overload. Let me start this point by asking you this question. Have you ever been in a presentation where the presenter is showing a slide deck to you, and you're looking at this particular slide and there's just so much in it that you don't know where to look? So you try to look your way into the presentation or to that slide deck, and then you cannot find your way, and you decide to look away and you look at your phone because you're lost. You cannot really figure out what this person is going to tell you. So information overload is about us wrongly thinking that we need to share everything we know, everything we have done, and every little step. And the way this might look like in daily presentation is that we have cramped slides. We have too many slides, too many slides. And then we have maybe too much text on a single slide. These are all signs of us having to share so much information overload, which is a big pattern in everything that I've seen from all the people that I've coached. And one thing that we need to be mindful here, and it's very subtle, but I've seen it come up, is that whenever I bring this point up with the people that I work with, I don't know why, but somehow we get it in our head that we mean that we want to strive for minimalism. Because when I say, no, you shouldn't have information overload, people think that, okay, then I'm gonna go for minimalism. And I cannot stress this enough, that minimalism is not the goal here. We're not looking for this Scandinavian styled slide deck. No, that's not the goal. The goal is clarity. We're looking for clarity. And in one context, it could be that you need to share too much, and that means clarity for the information and for the audience you want to influence. And in another setting, it could be that you need to not share that much and you need to share a teensy tiny selective amount of information for the impact you want to have for your audience. You see what I mean here? What I mean is that the problem with information overload is that information overload on itself is not the problem. The problem is that most often than not, it is our autopilot, a way of creating slides without being intentional, whether that I'm sharing this much because it's serving that purpose or I'm not sharing that much because it's serving that purpose. It's not about sharing much or less every time. It's about being deliberate. How much should I share for the influence and for the impact I want to create? So be mindful of this trap, okay? When I talk about information overload, mistakenly people think that we mean minimalism, which is not true. That's not what we want. We want intentionality. That's the most important part. So here's what I would like you to do. I want you to ask yourself, what do my audience need to know supporting my message? So in the previous checklist, in being self-focused, we talked about that we want to have the core message or the key idea or the key takeaway have had first at the start. And now in this one, in information overload, we want to think about what is the absolute most important and necessary supporting evidence or information or data that I need for that key message. So everything has to be in the purpose of that key message that we defined in the previous step in being self-focused. And ask yourself, what is absolutely needed? You have to be very brutal here. It's not about everything you want to share, but it's about what the audience absolutely need to hear. That's the key. And this was all about information overload. And if you're watching to this part of the video and you feel like that there's substance in it and there's value in it and you feel like that this needs to reach other people's hands and eyes and ears, please like and subscribe to my channel. It will help me reach way more people who need to hear this. And honestly, it will help us all work in better environments where people can present and communicate better. So why not? And now let's talk about the third one, being lack of structure. This is what I say all the time, that whenever you create a message, it's like you are putting bricks on bricks on bricks on bricks so that you create a wall that will mean something. It could be a skyscraper, it could be this kind of house, it could be that kind of apartment, but it will start shaping itself into something. And in our presentation case, it will become our message. So far we've created our core message, we've created all of our data, but the sequence and the way we organize and structure that information is crucial for the audience to be guided to where we would like them to be. We cannot expect our audience to be taking and digesting and understanding the information we want to get them in their own head. We have to be the guidance. We have to be the guidance in that presentation. Remember, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that presentation is an act of generosity. It's us being in service of our audience. And when you are serving other, you have to be guiding them from this point to that point to another point. And structure is the way to do so. And there's a trap here. Whenever I bring this up, people say, okay, well, when structure is important, well, I'm going to talk about this core message or this topic in a chronological order. So thinking that we started this in September, then we did this, then we did that, then this happened, that happened, until you reach that point. Which is the obvious reaction when we talk about structure, because for most of us, chronological order or this timeline way of thinking about everything is the basic structure that we have in our head. And it's actually something that has happened. Who can say that for a project or for something that they did at work, a timeline didn't occur? And that's the only structure that we know. But the trick is not to think about the chronological order all the time. Remember, not all the time. Sometimes that helps, but most often than not, that is not the case. You do not need to be chronologically in place for your message to land with your audience. You need to use other form of structures. Now, when it comes to structures in business presentation, there are so many different ways you can do that, and that serves different purposes for all kind of audiences. If you're presenting upwards, if you're presenting sideways, if you're presenting downwards. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the most common or something more general that you can use in all of your presentation that you give at work, and it works 70% of the time. Okay, If you understand this, you will be able to tailor it for different presentations that you have at work. And it's called SCCR. Situation, complication, challenge, and result. So situation is where we are right now. Why are we having this conversation? What is the current situation? For example, this company is selling this product, this much. We are having this team. What is the current status that everybody can agree on? That's the most important in context. You have to tell something that everybody can agree on. We want to create a baseline. And then we're going to move it on and build something on it as we go. So the first thing is situation. What is the as is situation as everybody knows it? And then we go into complication. So complication is why this current situation is not going to work for us in the long term. If we leave the situation as is for a long time, it's going to be problematic. And we need to do something about it. So what is the complication in the current situation? Then comes the challenge. The challenge is something that specifically you are solving, or you and your team are solving, and what is going to be the topic for this presentation. So maybe this complication has so many different aspects, but you are doing this part of it. So you want to talk about the specificity of that challenge in the challenge part. And then we talk about the results, or if you haven't done the project, you want to talk about the desired result. So the plan in order to get there. The beauty of the structure is that first you warm up the audience on why they should even listen to you, why they should even care. I know that in a lot of presentation skills and structure, they talk about, putting the recommendation first and then bring everything else. And, they use this a lot in consultancies, which is fine and valid, and we use it, I use it. But most of the time, you need to warm up the audience. You need to orient them where they are and why they should even care about the project or about the stuff that you want to tell them. So first you orient them, you make it their problem, you bring the urgency high so that they will care and they will act on it. Remember, you want to give a presentation to change something in your audience. You either want to change their behavior or you want to change their, yes, you want to say it, opinion. You want to change this or that. And in order to make a change, you need to create steps. Tell them what's going on right now. Why is there a problem? What should we do about it? And here's what I've done about it. First, warming it up so that they will understand what you're going to tell them. This was all the third point, being lack of structure. Now we're almost there. I'm going to talk about the fourth point, which is missing business context. Missing business context comes more when we talk about executive communication, or when we are presenting upwards to the people who are either decision makers, who have very high interest, or basically high level C executive people. Well, not even only C executive, but even maybe managers or people who are way higher than you, and you are presenting your project to them. You're presenting upwards. Missing business context is something that people fall short when they are presenting upwards. Because we tend to be so wrapped around in our head and thinking about our own objectives, our own projects, our own things, but we miss the bigger business context. So if the CEO of the company you're working with, and they will ask you, why are you even this project? Why are you even doing this project? What do you think he thinks about, or she thinks about? They're going to think about what business problem or what part of the business problem are you solving for me as a business owner? And they are absolutely right. For whatever project we do at the company, we have to think about what is the bigger company objective that I'm serving with this. Because if that's not true, I might as well not even do the project in the first place, because who cares? The company has big objectives. They have KPIs, key performance indicators, and my project or my colleagues or everybody's projects should be a tiny fracture of that bigger KPI. And if anywhere in your career, or if anywhere in your presentations you cannot really tell, where am I really facing this, or where am I really contributing in the bigger scheme of things? That's a bit problematic. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. What company KPI am I helping? Or am I trying to help with this project? Why should the CEO of this company care about what I'm doing? What business problem am I solving? Am I creating more money? Or am I preventing the leakage of money somewhere else? I want you to ask why am I doing this project? And then for the answer to that, another why. Do this 5 times. Ask why to understand why you're even doing this project. Because you need to relate this to the bigger goals of the company. Otherwise, this will be a pretty much junior, mid-year level business presentation. And that's not what you want. This was all about the fourth one, missing business context. So now we've talked about 4 points or 4 categories why people's presentations at work might fall short when it comes to landing with their audience. The first one was being self-focused. We don't want to be self-focused. We need to be audience-centered because we want to have that act of generosity when we are presenting. We want to be in service of others and not really be self-focused. The second point we talked about was information overload and the fact that we're not really striving for minimalism here. But what we are striving for is being deliberate in how much information we want to share for the key message or the core key message that we want to share with our audience. And the third point was not having structure, not really sequencing the information we want to share with our audience in the right way so that people can grasp it and digest it as we tell them so that we get what we want. And last was missing business context, which is a clear junior, mid-year common mistake that people make because they're so wrapped around whatever they are doing in their day-to-day, they forget the bigger whys or the bigger context or the bigger reasons why they're doing this project in the bigger scheme of things. So be mindful of these 4 patterns or 4 categories of why business presentations might fall short. And if this added anything to you, provided any value, and you felt like that you learned even this tiny, please like the video so that it can reach more people and we can all work in environments where people can present themselves better and we can have a nicer business environment. Thank you so much for listening up until this point. And if this feels like something you want to learn more about, feel free to subscribe to my channels because a lot more is going to come as we go. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.